Hey, this is Gary.
This is Mike.
And Daniel. We're not professionals. We're just three addicts sharing our experiences, strength, and hope regarding recovery.
Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to other addicts and to practice these principles in our lives.
Welcome to another episode of the 12th Step Podcast. This is Daniel.
And this is Mike.
And this is Gary.
All right, we have another wonderful email from one of our listeners. So the last two episodes have been listener emails. So we're going to go through this one. Just fair warning, this one is a little bit heavy. And this is an email from H. It says, "Hello, I'm writing this with a heavy heart. Addiction, specifically sexual addiction, has taken nearly everything from me. I've lost my career, my family, my children, my friends, and even my home. The weight of shame and regret feels unbearable some days, and I don't know how to keep going. I listen to your podcast because it gives me a glimpse of hope, but I feel so broken and empty. My question is this: where do I even begin? When addiction has stripped a person of nearly everything meaningful in their life, how can recovery and sobriety even start? And once sobriety is found, how can someone rebuild all that's been lost? Trust, relationship stability, when it feels like the damage is beyond repair. I want to believe there is still a future for me, but right now I'm struggling to see the path forward. Any guidance or words of encouragement you can share would mean the world. Thank you, H."
That's a heavy email.
That is.
Well, I've certainly been there.
Yeah.
As have I.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know,
I have a lot of thoughts.
there are lots of thoughts running through my head at
I want
the
to just
moment.
start with a positive thought for him. First and foremost, thank you for reaching out. And secondly, there is hope for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, your life is not over, not even
That's
close.
exactly right. And I want to make that point right up front. I don't want to leave that for the last of this podcast. I want literally for H to know that there is hope right from the very beginning, that we are three living examples of hope, the embodiment of hope to some extent, if you will, because with the work and the effort and the help, I think that's key. You know, you're obviously not going to tackle this alone and be successful in that, but with the right people in your camp, the right people, the right help, you're going to find help, you're going to find the resources, and you're going to move forward in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Do you know what this email makes me think of? Well, you know, my addiction I went to throw myself in front of a train.
Yes.
I had given up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I started my recovery, and quite honestly, I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what that was going to require of me. I just got to a place where I was willing to do whatever it took.
Yes.
And then I just started doing things a little bit at a time, which is why I say do the next right thing. But you talk about, do I have a life after this? Do I have a future? What is that going to look like? And H, the thing that I want you to, what surprised me most about my own recovery is it didn't take very long before my life started taking me in a direction that I hadn't thought of before.
Right.
In fact, I've often said within a year, I was in a place that I couldn't have conceived of.
Mm-hmm.
It was beyond my ability to conceive the life that I was then living. So where you're at right now, I understand how hopeless or pointless or directionless it might seem, but I promise you, recovery will take you to a place that you right now can't conceive of.
Yeah.
Right.
But it is there and it is possible.
Yeah.
Now,
I think that's the other. He's pointed out so much lost my career, my family, my children, my friends, and even my home. There are some of those things that, no question about it, are irreplaceable.
gone.
They're gone.
they're gone.
But I do believe that there are some of those things that when they start to realize that you're making a conscious effort in your recovery to help yourself, I think people walk away from some of these relationships only because they say, I can't be a part of all that. I can't watch the self-destruction that's going on here. And I think what you'll find is that some of those relationships that you've talked about as being gone literally will start to migrate back once they realize that you're working towards obtaining some level of health, some level of stability, some place to get a footing. And I think I think you are, as I can gather from your email, I believe you're in that spot where you can start moving forward. Now, I think you've lost everything, and I think it's taken a lot of things from you. But what a position to be in, to realize that the only place to go from here is up.
Exactly. I also want to caution you. I think I've seen a lot of people. I've fallen into this trap myself, and I bet I'm willing to bet that you guys have too. You have this weird mindset that you want to make things right, but then you think, I want things to be normal again.
Right.
You know, I have this idealized fantasy of what I perceive what my life used to be, and you know, it took me a little while to get my head around the idea of no, that's not, number one, that's not what it was like. There wasn't a normal to go back to.
Yeah.
No, you have to accept the idea that you're going forward to something new. You're not going back to this idealized fantasy of what you thought your life was when. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does.
Because in a lot of sense, that was an illusion, because you weren't being honest with yourself or the people that you were with. It wasn't real in a lot of sense. That doesn't mean that good things didn't happen or that there aren't things that you can't take forward with you, because there absolutely are. But don't fall into that trap of things will be great when they were like they used to be, because there wasn't
There wasn't like it. Yeah.
there was not a like that used to be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want to give H some hope too. And I know you said what you did, Mike, but this was me 5 years ago.
Exactly.
I didn't have a house anymore. I was my marriage was over. Most of my kids weren't talking to me anymore. I still had my job, yes, but for a small period of time, I didn't even have my freedom. And so a lot of what he is saying, I felt, you know, the weight of shame and regret was all there. But working my recovery, you know, accepting that this is something I had to do, accepting that everything that I had done. Those were my choices. You know, yes, I could have been the victim and blamed X, Y, and Z, but that wouldn't have gotten me anywhere.
No.
You know, I had to do the next right thing. You know, that's the thing Gary says, but it literally became, you know, a thing that was just part of me. Like, if I lost a job or if something didn't go right, okay, what's the next right thing to do, instead of, you know, sitting and commiserating in that misery, you know. And that's just the thing is, okay, what's the next right thing, you know. I mean, I was living in a neighbor's camping trailer for a month because I didn't know where to go or what to do. And then from that, I found an apartment because it wasn't going to change. The divorce was happening. All these things were happening. I had to find a lawyer to deal with the divorce. I had to do all these steps. And I continued with my recovery because it was the best thing for me. And hoping that would be the best thing for my kids. The marriage was over. The life that I thought was over. And I needed to rebuild a new life. You know, I eventually, you know, got a better job. I bought a house. And I still call it my starter house because it is. My life was starting over. And it's been one improvement upon another upon another.
Well, I was just kind of thinking about it. I've changed my career twice in my recovery, you know, and you know, Mike is still doing the same thing, but your job looks very, very different.
Very different.
Oh yeah,
you know,
and my life does too.
Yeah, no,
but it's better than it was before. Even though, yes, I'm not married, I don't have that marriage. Separating from that was probably the best thing for me, and maybe H, you'll find when you're further down the road that this was a good thing for you, because I had this notion I had to do this for the marriage. I had to do this to keep the marriage, but once that was gone, that anchor wasn't there anymore, and I had to find a new focus, which was me, you know. And as I worked on me and improved me, then my kids saw that, and then they started gravitating in. As I got better, I started getting better job offers. And I have a much better job, and a job that I enjoy far better than I did at that time. And a lot of the limitations that I had are gone because I was spending so much time in that addiction.
Even the people in your life, like your children. Okay, you're recovering relationships with them, but they look different, and those relationships are better and healthier than they've ever been.
And my friendships are better.
Yeah,
I have a friend that I've known since 7th grade, and we have a much healthier relationship than ever. So much so that, he calls me up and says, "Oh, I'm struggling. These are the things I'm doing." I wouldn't have been able to have those type of conversations in fear of, oh man, what if I say something about my addiction or something like that, and he's not going to, and then I'm going to out myself and he's not going to like me anymore. That barrier is gone. So there is so much more because of this moment in time that I thought my life exploded. It's kind of like the phoenix, you're now, everything's dead, you're in the ashes, and you can rise from it. And be such a better person if you work your recovery, if you go to a 12-step program and do those things you need to do, and as you do those, you'll find that peace is entering your life. A lot what, like Mike says at the end of every show, if you're doing the next right thing, you're going to find that peace, you're going to find that humility. And then you're going to be a year or two down the road like, wow.
And you'll be living a life you couldn't even conceive of. Yeah.
This is so good. I mean, even on my worst days now, it is far better than my best days in my addiction.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm going to suggest something to H as well. I think that is just really relevant. And you can, obviously you can hop on the computer and Google this, but I really believe the 9-step promise is something that needs to be.
I knew you were going to do this.
Of course I am.
I love it so much.
I just believe the 9-step promise speaks to me. It just simply does. I remember experiencing the despair, the moments of despair that H is talking about. Now, I may not have experienced to the gratitude to the level of what he has experienced, the gravity of what he's experienced, but I can certainly feel his pain. I understand what he's going through. I understand the magnitude and the feeling of loss and hopelessness is a very real feeling. And I found so much peace in the 9-step promise. I just have. There were times literally when it didn't feel like anything was working for me. I wasn't able to reach out to somebody or whatever the case may be, and I could come to the 9-step promise and I can read that and feel the hope that it generated. Yeah, it really is. It is one of the greatest pieces of thought that has ever been put on a piece of paper, as far as I'm concerned. And I got to think of millions of people that have gone through addiction recovery, alcohol, drugs, whatever the case may be, who are feeling hopeless and read that and have felt the power behind those words, because it is powerful.
I've looked it up. Would you like me to read it?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, the 9th-step promise, and I concur with everything that Mike said about this. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain an interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurities will leave us. We will instinctively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, some quickly, some slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
I love that.
I do too.
I absolutely love that. Those are some of the best words I think the planet has ever experienced. They really are. I think of thousands, millions of people that have experienced the despair, the place of pain and sorrow and suffering that H is experiencing, and have read those words and have walked away feeling like, okay, there is some hope.
Yeah.
Because that's what that gives.
the three of us are living examples that that
Exactly.
is absolutely true. And H, where you are now, we once were.
Yes.
To one degree or another, we were there. And
Yes.
where we are now, you can be.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely believe that.
Yeah.
If you'll just do the work.
Right. Absolutely true. There is some other work I think that ought to be done here as well. It sounds like to me that H has experienced a tremendous amount of loss. He's itemized the things, but but there are always still things to be grateful for.
Always.
And I think that one of the exercises, and you can look this up yourself, H. There's lots of research done on the topic of gratitude.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and the power and the absolute power behind gratitude. I didn't recognize the healing power of gratitude until at some point in my recovery. But I will tell you that, and there are courses. You can believe this or not. There are courses taught at Yale University, at some of the other major universities around, that are teaching the concept and the power behind the concept of gratitude, and what that's doing to enable people to move forward in meaningful ways. I don't care how low a person goes, what damage and destruction or anything else they've caused, and the pain and suffering that they're experiencing, that gratitude can't help.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things I read from a specific author that I really, really enjoy, he talked about the topic of gratitude and indicated that, these feelings of despair and pain and sorrow and suffering it's impossible to have those feelings if one is experiencing gratitude. So what does one have to do to experience gratitude? A gratitude journal is a great place to start. There's plenty of literature out there about the healing capability of gratitude, and working through a gratitude journal is one of those ways of doing it.
One of the keys, if you want a practical application of this, is feelings of thankfulness become gratitude when they're expressed, but they
Yes.
have to be expressed. So writing them down is a fantastic way. Gratitude journal is a time-tested
process.
and true method of doing that, but there are other ways too. You can express your gratitude in prayer, in meditation. You can express your gratitude to other people. You can express your gratitude in song or art or poetry or whatever it is,
Yes.
but you have to find a way to express it. And a gratitude journal is a great place to start.
Yes.
Yeah. While you guys were talking, I actually pulled up research information on gratitude. So, research has shown that that gratitude can improve mental health. It reduces stress, anxiety, and depression, and it fosters a positive outlook on life and enhances resilience. It boosts physical health. It can lower blood pressure, improve sleep quality, and reduce inflammation. It strengthens social relationships. Expressing gratitude to others strengthens social bonds and increases feelings of connection. It enhances life satisfaction by increases overall life satisfaction and well-being. It also promotes pro-social behavior. Grateful individuals are more likely to engage in helping behaviors and volunteer their time. But more importantly, it has a neurochemical change. It triggers the release of neurochemicals like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, which promote feelings of happiness and well-being. Cognitive reprisal. Gratitude shifts attention away from negative aspects of life towards positive experiences, fostering a more optimistic outlook. Also, emotional regulation. Gratitude helps individuals manage difficult emotions and copes with stress more effectively. Then, of course, social connection. Expressing gratitude strengthens social bonds and increases feelings of belonging. And these are just from several different
Authors, right? That's
research that they've done. Yeah. And
the research is astounding.
Yeah.
It just simply is astounding. It's there's an overwhelming wave of evidence that indicates that doing something simple as writing in a journal. I do remember the first time this was really sort of introduced to me, and I thought to myself, "Wow, how hokey is that?" Right? I mean, that doesn't even sound like the fact that I can write something down on a piece of paper will talk about it, make the changes that you're talking about there. And then when I got into it, I realized, my word, there is some power to this.
Yeah.
There really is. And so my own experience was very much one of, and I am a true believer in the concept of gratitude.
I am too.
That is a powerful tool. So,
I mean, back when I was in this dark place, go for a walk that had been really helpful.
yeah.
Well, it goes, and I've told this story on the podcast before. I was in that car accident. My chest was crushed.
right.
And I remember, the the guidance or the thought that I got was I just needed to breathe. What's the next right thing to do? To breathe. And then after I had done that for a while and they'd cut me out of the car and I was just tired and exhausted and all this kind of stuff. This is the quick Reader's Digest version of the story. They put that little thing in your nose and they turned on the oxygen.
Right.
And the panicky feeling went away. Nothing else changed. I was still in more pain than I'd ever experienced in my life. But I remember thinking very clearly, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I don't know if I want to. I don't know how I'm going to make it through this. How am I going to make it through this? And they turned that thing on and the thought came to me, you're going to be grateful.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will hang on to that until the next thing comes to be grateful. And I made it through that experience by looking for the next thing to be grateful for.
Wow.
And for the first hours of that experience, it was just, I'm so grateful I can breathe and I can get some oxygen and I don't feel panicked, and I held on to that through all of this pain for hours while they worked me up and things like that. And then I just kept, it was a deliberate, focused effort on my part. I had to look for it in spite of everything else going on around me that telling me that this really sucks. I was looking for reasons to be grateful. And that had such a powerful effect on me. I still, every morning I get up and the first thing that I do is I take a deep breath and then I express gratitude for that.
Well, and I think that's what H kind of needs to do here is,
I think it's a place to
word
start.
Of encouragement
It is a place to start.
Is
It's
to
a
start
place
is
to
like,
start. Yeah.
what can you be grateful for now?
Right in this moment. If
in
that's
this
where you
moment.
need to start, do the next right thing.
And
right this second.
Yep. And then just move through things. What's the next right thing to do today? What's the next right thing to do tomorrow?
Yeah.
And expressing gratitude for every day. Like, I'm really grateful that I was able to accomplish A. On day 2, I'm really grateful that all these things, and that I was able to do step A and B. And you'll find that eventually it won't be so heavy. It won't be so burdensome. Right. And some of these things will come back. Like,
that's right.
Like Mike has said.
That's right.
Back when this started,
I think those children are probably fairly resilient.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that they've suffered some pain and sorrow and suffering, but I think at some point in time, as they see you make a concerted effort to make improvements to your life, that resilience will kick in and they will come back. I believe that.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned my oldest daughter. Like,
sure.
I honestly didn't think that would ever come.
Yeah.
But it's here, and I have that relationship. It may take time, which is something H needs to realize. It's on their timetable.
Yeah.
But you may find a better job. You may find a better home. You may down the road find another companion. And because you've done the work, that relationship's going to be better than any other relationship you've had in the past.
Yeah. Or if you've healed or mended the relationship, that will be better than it's ever been.
Yeah, and it could be that even though it looks this way, maybe you do get back together.
Yeah.
And because of the work you've done, and she's done her own work, and maybe you have a better relationship than you did before.
Yeah.
Because the other one was kind of fake and hollow. This one's solid. And, there's a lot of emotional safety and trust here.
Yeah.
I can promise you, if you do the work, your life will become something that you can't conceive of right now.
I
wholeheartedly
agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. I remember Gehring sharing that story of the car accident. One of the things that sticks out in my mind still is that moment when they gave you ice chips for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And how you'd move from, how grand oxygen was. It wasn't that a fantastic experience to now getting ice chips.
Oh, yeah.
And thinking, oh, my word, this is the best experience in my entire life.
They should put this everywhere. That's why I said, oh, my gosh, I should put this everywhere. That's part of my morning ritual, too, is after the deep breath, I take ice water.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Every day.
I still remember that. And that's been several years ago that you shared that. And I find that it's so simple. It's so simple of a place to start to say, I'm going to, at least in this moment, be grateful for something as simple as an ice chip, and how powerful that was for you at that particular moment, but what that means for our listeners, right? Is far down as H is experiencing. I mean, he's experienced a tremendous amount of loss. This addiction has robbed him literally of everything.
Yeah.
And yet there's still a place to start. Be grateful for ice chips, as it were, right? Something simple as ice chips.
I mean,
what a place to start.
For me, it's just sunlight on my face.
That's right.
Like
Oh,
first
yeah.
thing in the morning, I open my drapes and the sunlight comes in, and I
Yeah.
just sit there just for a minute or two and just enjoy that feeling.
Enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I will also throw this out. This is something else that I've learned that, through recovery, is that God, your higher power, doesn't matter where you are in life. He will meet you where you're at and accept you where you are. And if you choose to follow him, if you choose to walk the path of recovery, you won't stay where you're at long.
Correct.
Mhm.
It will change. There is a plan. However, we allow, the program allows us to have our higher power and interpret that, but there is a plan, and it does work, really. So whatever situation you are in right now, it is a temporary situation. It's not always going to be that way.
Mhm.
You start working this stuff, you start doing it, you look for reasons to be grateful, you do the next right thing, you exercise a little bit of faith and a little humility, and you just keep going forward. And like the 9th step promise says, before you're halfway done, you will be amazed, you will be astonished, you will hardly be able to believe
Yeah.
where you're at.
Things that used to baffle us.
Yeah.
Things that used to baffle. I
Look
can
that
think
up
of
and write
so-
that down in your gratitude
Oh,
journal.
yeah. I remember that. I remember that feeling constantly of, why is this so hard? Why do I struggle with this? And then as I was working through my recovery and continue working my recovery, the stuff that used to baffle me suddenly becomes a lot easier, things to deal with. It's just those are just fantastic words, and they're clearly words of hope. That's the thing I think more than anything that H needs at this particular juncture is words of hope.
Can I use you as an example, Daniel?
Sure.
Okay. So one of the things that really, really is clear of that is Daniel's gone through this cycle several times of having to find a new place to live and having to get a new job over his recovery. Okay. Now I remember the first time he went through that his experience, his world was upside down.
Oh yeah.
And it super sucked. And then the next time it was like, well, I really hate that I have to do this again, but I know what I'm going to do. And then it didn't happen 3 times.
Yeah.
And then the third time it's like, well, here we go. I know exactly what to do. Boom, boom. And did it suck? Sure. But you know what? He handled it completely differently. He found himself in a much, much better situation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it works. It really does.
It does. And even, this last time it was several months before I found the right job.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was still expressing gratitude. Even though I wasn't employed, I was still getting unemployment. That was helping. Grateful that I had money in savings.
Yeah.
Because if I hadn't, that probably wouldn't have been great. Expressing gratitude. I was spending time with my kids. I was doing things. Expressing gratitude. I had a roof over my head. I was still expressing the gratitude, but not only that, I was also, really leaning on my higher power. There was a point where I was offered a job and, feeling kind of that desperation, like, oh yeah, I'll take it. But then my higher power was like, no, that's not the right job. And I had to turn that job down, and it sucked because it's like, but there's money, but it wasn't the right position. It wasn't the right job. It would have actually made things more challenging from, my visitation schedule with my kids. And so you got to really listen to your higher power and be grateful, because those things kind of seem hand in hand, because as long as I'm being grateful, I can be in a positive place to hear my higher power.
Yeah.
Because when I'm in, if I'm in the muck and, in that victim stance, I can't hear it, because it's that still quiet voice, and my head is just so much louder. And so when I'm in that place, I could hear that, and I could, I knew the right steps to take. So yeah, the first time it royally sucked. I didn't know what to do, but that last time, it happened. It's like, all right, what's the next right step?
Yeah.
I'm going to make a bold statement, but I'll die on this hill. Okay. No,
This
I
is the
really
sword
will.
Right.
you're going to fall on.
Okay.
Right?
No, here it is. Here it is. I am a firm believer that no matter what your life situation is, no matter how far down you've gone, no matter where you're at, you have more to be grateful for than you do to feel sorry for yourself about.
Absolutely.
And self-pity is poison.
Mm-hmm.
cancerous poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will die on that hill. So wherever you're at, to all of our listeners, wherever you are at right now, I promise you, if you'll look, you will find more things to be grateful for than you have to feel sorry for yourself about.
I think you're right. 100%. I tell you what, I would love to hear from H again.
I would too.
I think it'd be fantastic to hear, some period of time after where he's found some footing. He's found some, he's found his tribe, a community that he can connect with. He's found some support in somebody. He's found possibly a counselor. He's found an SAA group to attend. He's found a sponsor. He's found a handful of things that feel like that's adding some stability to his circumstance. And I'd love him to write back again and say, you know what, you're right. I found some of these things. I'm working on these particular things, and I'm finding some stability. And I'm moving forward with my life, and I'm finding some experience in the 9th step promise, and I'm finding some experience in the topic of gratitude. And these things are paying big dividends in my life.
Yeah, that would be great.
I know they seem, I really do know that when he's probably listening to this podcast thinking that is the hokiest thing I think I've ever heard in my life. And yet, here we have 3 people who've literally walked this path, who've experienced these things ourselves and have implemented these tools and have found peace, have found some peace.
You know what? If you do find yourself saying that's the hokiest thing I've ever heard in my life, I guarantee you each one of us has said to ourselves at one point in our recovery, that is the hokiest thing I've ever heard.
I really wish we would have recorded that first phone call with you and Mike saying, hey, you want to start a podcast?
I know, right?
Because
that is the hokiest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. But here, even last episode, or was it this episode or the last one where you're like, this is part of my recovery.
It is part of my recovery.
It is something that has meaning to me.
And it's also a perfect example. All 3 of us are sitting at this table doing this podcast, and I never saw myself doing this.
Nor did I. Yeah, it's fascinating to me. But what's great about it is it comes at a perfect time for me. It comes around regularly, and it always reminds me of a greater good kind of a thing. So it's powerful. It's
and
good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm done.
I was also going to say, and this might sound like the hokiest thing you've ever heard, but you're not alone. Believe it or not, we're pulling for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I as part of my recovery, and take this and as you will, as part of my recovery, I do my step 11 work, and I'm constantly trying to increase my contact, my conscious contact with my higher power. And I very often plead for my listeners that they can find their way home, that they can get something that's going to be helpful, that maybe one of us might be lucky enough to say something that somebody out there will hear and never forget, and if it's just that little grain of rice that tips the scale in your favor, we're pulling for you. We really are.
Yeah.
Each and every one of you.
Yeah. Well put.
Yeah. So it's that time to wrap this up, but I just want to again say, as bad as it is right now, I was there 5 years ago, and now it's great. Be grateful, lean on your higher power, find your tribe so that you have someone to lean on, to talk to. We'd love to hear from you again in whatever set time that is where you feel like, wow, things have really turned around. I think that'd be a great message of hope to other listeners.
Yeah.
Beyond us, it just shows that, hey, look where H was and look where he's now. Because we've all experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are doing their work in this, in their recovery, find that 9th step promise fulfilling in their lives every day. So just take it one step at a time. That's why it's one day at a time. Just work at it. Know we're pulling for you. And, wish you the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like Mike said, it's only up from here.
Yeah. I think something that I tell myself is when I'm in my low moments, when I'm in my worst moments, I'm in the middle of my best story.
Yeah.
And you get to write the end. And H, we would love to hear And if nothing else, that's something to work that's make that a goal. That's not nothing to work for,
Yeah, this is a setback. It's not the end.
Yeah.
It's not the end of your story. It's
Not
just a
even close.
setback.
Right.
So, all right. Well, this is Daniel saying find the humility in your recovery.
And this is Mike saying do the work necessary to find the peace that recovery can bring.
And this is Gary saying, do the next right thing.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like this episode, please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find us.
As a fellowship of recovering addicts, Sex Addicts Anonymous offers a message of hope to anyone who suffers from sex addiction. Check out saa-recovery.org.